Evelyn Hart arrived in Black Mesa with a trunk full of silk thread and found the dress shop locked. The sign over the door still read Madame Lott's Fine Sewing, though one corner hung loose and tapped softly against the wall whenever the wind moved down the street. Behind the window, 2 dress forms stood under sheets. Dust lay thick on the sill. A faded notice had been pasted to the glass. Closed until further arrangement. Evelyn read it twice because the first time her mind refused the words. Madame Lott had written from Black Mesa 3 months earlier. She had offered steady work, a small room above the shop, and the chance for Evelyn to manage fittings while Madame Lott visited her sister in Tucson. It was not a grand offer, but it was honest work in a town growing fast from cattle money and stage traffic. Evelyn had answered within the week. Then she had sold half her furniture, packed the patterns she had drafted since girlhood, and traveled west with every coin counted. Now the shop was closed. No room above, no employer, no explanation except a curling notice and 2 sheeted forms watching her from the dark. Across the street, men hammered on the frame of a new hotel. It rose higher than any building around it, 3 stories of raw lumber, scaffolds, and optimism. A banner stretched across the front. The Black Mesa Grand, opening before harvest. The wind caught the banner and made it snap like laughter. "You looking for Madame Lott?" Evelyn turned. A woman carrying a basket stood beside the bakery door. "Yes. She left 2 weeks ago." "For Tucson?" "For good, from what I hear. Sold her machines to a man in Santa Fe." Evelyn felt the handle of her carpet bag bite into her palm. "Did she leave word for me?" The woman looked at the trunk, the traveling suit, the careful hat now powdered with road dust, and her face softened in a way Evelyn did not want. "Not with me." That was how Black Mesa first greeted her, with a closed door, a useless banner, and pity from a stranger. Evelyn did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears in public made other people feel generous before they felt fair, and generosity could disappear by supper. She walked to the hotel, the old one, not the grand one still wearing its ribs in the street, and asked for a room. The clerk looked at her luggage. $2. "For one night?" "Town's full." Evelyn glanced at the register. Half the page was blank. "Full of opportunity, perhaps?" The clerk blinked. Before he could answer, a man's voice behind her said, "Mrs. Bell has a clean room above the laundry for 75 cents. Evelyn turned. The man in the doorway wore a work shirt, dark vest, and a hat held respectfully in one hand. He had sawdust on his sleeve and a carpenter's pencil behind one ear. His face was lean, brown from sun, and unreadable except for the eyes, which were tired in a patient way. The clerk stiffened. "Mr. Rowan, I don't recall asking for help. You looked busy making up prices." Evelyn looked from the clerk to the carpenter. "And Mrs. Bell takes strangers?" "She takes paying women who don't make trouble before breakfast." "How does she define trouble?" "Depends whether she likes you." Despite everything, Evelyn almost smiled. "That seems imprecise." "She's imprecise, but clean." The carpenter stepped aside, leaving the choice with her. Outside, he lifted her trunk as if it weighed less than her worry, but did not presume to carry the carpet bag from her hand. "Name's Levi Rowan," he said. "I work on the new hotel." "Evelyn Hart." "You came for Madame Lott." "The whole town knows already?" "The stage driver mentioned a seamstress asking after the shop." "Does every arrival become public property?" "Only until someone else does something interesting." They walked past the hotel frame. Men moved across the upper beams. A foreman shouted measurements. A wagon delivered milled boards. The building seemed to lean into the street, eager to be admired. Evelyn slowed without meaning to. Levi noticed. Biggest thing Black Mesa has built. It is ambitious. That was polite. Polite is free. Accuracy costs extra. This time, he did smile. Mrs. Bell's laundry stood behind the bakery, warm and damp and smelling of lye soap. Mrs. Bell herself was a stout woman with iron gray hair and the assessing gaze of someone who had boiled stains out of expensive linen and therefore feared no social rank. "Seamstress?" she asked. "Yes. Can you mend shirt cuffs? I can build a wedding bodice from a sketch and alter a man's coat so his own wife believes his posture improved." Mrs. Bell looked at Levi. "She'll do." By evening, Evelyn had a narrow room, a basin, and 3 shirts needing repairs. By morning, she had 6 more shirts, 2 torn skirts, and a request from the bakery woman to refit a dress for Sunday. Work came not from Madame Lott's promises, but from laundry baskets, which Evelyn decided was more honest. For 3 days, she sewed beside Mrs. Bell's back window while the hotel rose across the street. She could see the construction site from her table. She saw Levi move through it with quiet authority, correcting angles, checking plumb lines, and taking more care than the foreman seemed to appreciate. She saw the hotel owner, Mr. Voss, arrive each afternoon in a cream coat and speak loudly enough for passers-by to hear that Black Mesa would soon be respectable. Respectable, Evelyn had learned, often meant expensive and less kind. On the 4th day, Mrs. Bell sent her to the hotel site with mended cuffs for Levi and a warning not to let sawdust men talk her into hemming canvas for free. Evelyn found Levi near the west wall, studying a set of plans spread over a barrel. His brow was drawn. A young assistant held one end of a measuring line while the foreman, Cale Dutton, tapped the plan impatiently. "Frame it as drawn," Dutton said. "As drawn doesn't match the foundation," Levi answered. "Then make it match." "That is not how matching works." Dutton looked ready to answer sharply when Evelyn approached. "Your cuffs," she said. Levi turned, and the tension in his face eased a little. "Thank you." Evelyn's eyes fell on the plan before she could stop herself. Patterns had trained her sight. A dress pattern, a coat panel, a sleeve cap, a hotel wall, all began as shapes that had to become honest in 3 dimensions. Mistakes announced themselves if a person knew where symmetry should have been. The west wall line on the plan was wrong. Not obviously, not to someone reading rooms and doors, but the measurements around the stairwell shifted by 6 inches between the 1st and 2nd floor drawings. The load would not sit where the columns expected it. Evelyn looked at the foundation, then back at the plan. "That wall has been shortened," she said. Both men looked at her. Dutton's face hardened. "This is a construction plan, miss." "I can see that." "Not a dress." "Then it should be easier. Buildings do not object to being measured around the waist." The assistant laughed before he could stop himself. Levi looked at the plan again. "Shortened where?" Evelyn stepped closer. "Here. The stairwell opening is marked 12 feet from the west corner on this drawing, but the 2nd floor plan puts the same interior support at 11 feet 6. If you frame this wall from the lower drawing and carry the upper load from that one, the line shifts." Dutton snatched the paper. "You read upside down now?" "I read patterns." "Well, read them somewhere else." Levi did not move. "She's right." Dutton turned on him. "You want to stop framing because a seamstress glanced at a page?" "I want the revised set." "This is the revised set." "Then I want the original." Dutton rolled the plans. "You want too much." By supper, the story had reached Mrs. Bell's laundry. By breakfast, it had become funnier, smaller, and less accurate. The seamstress had tried to design the hotel. The seamstress had told carpenters how to hold hammers. The seamstress had mistaken a staircase for a skirt. Evelyn listened while stitching a sleeve and said nothing. Mrs. Bell slammed a wet sheet into the rinse tub. I could scorch every shirt in town and still hear less foolishness than men produce before noon. It doesn't matter, Evelyn said. It does if they're wrong and you're right. People dislike that order. The next day, Levi came to the laundry with the cuffs she had mended and payment folded inside one of them. I did not charge this much, Evelyn said. I know. Then take it back. I need work done. She narrowed her eyes. What kind? He placed 2 sheets of paper on her sewing table. Hotel plans, copied by hand. I can't get the original set yet, he said, but I copied the measurements I could see. Something changed between the foundation survey and Dutton's framing plan. I need another eye. A seamstress eye. A pattern maker's eye. That distinction mattered more than it should have. Evelyn looked at the papers. If I help, I am paid. Yes. And if I find nothing, I am still paid. Yes. And if Mr. Dutton calls me amusing again, I charge double. Levi nodded. Seems fair? For the next 2 evenings, Evelyn measured the copied plans the way she measured a bodice. Fixed points first, then tension lines, then where the shape lied to itself. The hotel was not merely mismeasured, it had been shifted. The west wall had moved 6 inches inward from the foundation line. The service hallway narrowed by the same amount. The stair support no longer sat over the stone pier beneath it. But that was not the strangest part. The back corner of the hotel extended toward the dry arroyo behind Main Street. Evelyn had crossed that wash twice without thinking. It was mostly sand, weeds, and old wagon ruts, but the plans showed a filled section, as if the hotel cellar would sit partly over ground that had once been cut by water. Does the arroyo flood? She asked Levi when he returned. In heavy rain. How heavy? Depends who answers. Voss says once every 10 years. Old-timers say once every 3. Why build over it? Because Voss bought the lot cheap. Because he wants a larger dining room. Because Dutton says the fill will hold. Will it? Levi did not answer quickly. Not if the water returns the way it used to. There was the hidden question now, larger than 6 inches. Who had changed the plans? And why would anyone build a grand hotel partly over a path water had already chosen? Evelyn and Levi went to the arroyo at dawn. The town was still gray and quiet. Roosters made claims no one had asked them to prove. Mrs. Bell's wash lines hung empty. The hotel frame loomed above the street, handsome from the front, less certain from the back. Behind it, the arroyo curved through mesquite and sand. Levi showed her where Phil had been dumped. Evelyn walked the edge, skirt lifted above the burrs, studying the ground. She had no training in water, but she understood strain. Fabric pulled toward weakness. So did earth. At the base of the hotel lot, the fill had already settled into a shallow dip. Evelyn knelt and pressed her palm into the sand. This is lower than the plan. By how much? I need string. Levi was already unwinding a line from his pocket. She looked at him. Do you carry string for emergencies? Carpenter. Convenient species. They measured from the rear foundation to the arroyo edge, then from the foundation line to the west wall, then from the pier to where the stair support would carry weight. Levi drove 2 stakes. Evelyn tied string between them and watched the line reveal what the drawing had hidden. The hotel did not sit beside the old wash. It leaned into it. Not visibly, yet, not enough for passers-by, but enough that a hard rain could take the rear fill, expose the pier, and twist the building from the back, while guests admired the front. Levi removed his hat and stared at the string. Dutton knows. Or Voss does. Maybe both. Why risk it? Levi looked toward the hotel banner. Because opening before harvest means stage contracts, cattle meetings, and rail survey men staying under Voss's roof. Delay costs money. Collapse costs more. Only if it happens while people remember who hurried it. That sentence sat between them. They took their measurements to the town council. The council met in the back room of the mercantile, surrounded by seed sacks, cracker barrels, and the smell of tobacco. Voss attended because half the council owed him rent or wanted rooms in his future hotel. Dutton attended because he had been summoned and resented everyone equally. Evelyn laid out her string measurements and copied drawings. The west wall has been shifted from the foundation line, she said. The second floor support does not match the lower pier. The rear fill is settling toward the arroyo. If construction continues as framed, the back stair and service hall will carry weight unevenly. Dutton laughed. Hear that? She found a crooked seam. Several men smiled. Levi spoke before Evelyn could. She's right. Voss leaned back. Mr. Rowan, your concern is noted. But unless Miss Hart has built hotels between dress hems, I fail to see why this meeting is being delayed. Evelyn folded her hands to keep from curling them. Mr. Voss, have you ever worn a coat with one shoulder cut half an inch too short? He blinked. What? The coat hangs fine on a chair. It may even look fine when you first put it on, but the moment you move, the strain travels. The sleeve pulls, the collar twists, the seam fails exactly where the tailor pretended half an inch did not matter. She touched the plan. Your hotel is that coat. The room went quiet, not convinced, but listening. Dutton pointed at the paper. Poetry. Geometry, Evelyn said. Voss stood. Enough. We open before harvest. Black Mesa needs this hotel. Black Mesa needs one built honestly, Levi said. Voss's face cooled. You are relieved from the project. The words landed hard. Levi's jaw tightened, but he did not plead. Evelyn felt the room shift. A woman could be dismissed as amusing. A carpenter fired from the largest job in town became a warning. Voss smiled at the council. Now that personal anxieties have been settled, perhaps we can return to progress. That should have ended it. Instead, Mrs. Bell entered carrying a basket of laundry. Nobody had invited her. That had never stopped her. If Mr. Rowan is anxious, he comes by it honestly, she said. My back wall cracked in the flood 5 years ago. Voss sighed. Mrs. Bell. Don't Mrs. Bell me. You bought that lot because everyone with a memory knew the back edge was trouble. An older councilman named Sutter straightened. The flood reached your laundry? Reached my stove. The hotel lot is higher. It was before Voss scraped it flat. Evelyn looked at Levi. Scraped it flat. There was the next hidden seam. If the lot had been lowered, the plan did not merely misplace walls, it misrepresented ground. The meeting dissolved into argument. Voss demanded order. Dutton called Mrs. Bell mistaken. Mrs. Bell suggested where he might place that opinion and was asked to moderate her vocabulary near the cracker barrels. The council postponed nothing. Construction resumed by afternoon. Levi lost his job. That evening, Evelyn found him behind Mrs. Bell's laundry, sitting on an overturned wash tub and sharpening a pencil with a pocket knife. That pencil has suffered enough, she said. He stopped. I cost you work, she said. Voss cost me work. I brought the plans, and I brought them to you. Why? He looked at the pencil, then at the hotel frame visible above the wash lines. Because when you saw the mistake, you didn't enjoy it. Some people like catching others wrong. You looked worried. Evelyn sat on the step beside him. Mistakes in patterns become bodies uncomfortable in rooms full of people. Women tug at sleeves and blame themselves for not fitting what was badly cut. I dislike that. You think buildings do the same? I think people blame themselves for bad structures more often than they should. Levi was quiet for a long moment. My father built the old stage barn, he said. It settled after the first rain. He told the owner the ground needed stone drains before the walls went up. Owner refused, said he wanted it finished. When the floor dipped, everyone said my father had lost his touch. Had he? No. Could he prove it? Too late. Evelyn looked toward the hotel. You don't want that again? No. The word was soft, but everything in him stood behind it. The proof came from dress forms. 2 days after Levi was dismissed, Evelyn gained permission from the absent Madame Lott's landlord to retrieve a box of discarded pattern paper from the closed shop. The landlord wanted the back room cleared and did not care what became of old things. Evelyn entered the shop with Mrs. Bell as witness. The room smelled stale. Bolts of cheap cotton remained on one shelf. Thread drawers stood open. The two covered dress forms in the window had tilted toward each other, as if sharing gossip in the dark. Evelyn uncovered them and stopped. One form wore a half-fitted bodice of cream muslin. Pins remained along the side seam. Chalk marks curved over the shoulder and down the ribs. Madame Lott had been fitting someone tall, broad through the chest, with a slight forward slope in the right shoulder. Voss. In the back room, Evelyn found the pattern envelope marked Mr. Voss Formal Coat. Inside were measurements, notes, and a sheet of paper used as backing. Madame Lott had reused anything flat. On the back of the coat draft, in Dutton's square handwriting, were figures for excavation and fill. Rear lot cut down 2 feet. Old wash line filled. No delay. Voss approval. Evelyn held the paper without breathing. Mrs. Bell leaned over her shoulder. Is that what I think it is? It is not enough alone. It is more than we had before breakfast. They took it to Levi. He read the figures once, then again. This is Dutton's hand. Can you prove that? I can. Can you prove Voss knew? Levi tapped the last line. Voss approval. He'll say it refers to cost. Then we need ground that speaks louder than handwriting. They found it beneath the laundry. Mrs. Bell's cracked back wall had been repaired after the flood, with stones pulled from the old arroyo bank. One still held the high water mark in pale mineral stain, a line higher than Evelyn's waist. Sutter, the older councilman, remembered the flood once prompted. He had helped carry trunks from Mrs. Bell's back room. The bakery woman remembered bread floating in pans. The stage master remembered moving horses to high ground. Black Mesa had not forgotten the flood. It had merely allowed Voss to call it rare until rare sounded like never. The second council meeting happened in the street because too many people came for the back room. Evelyn stood with Levi, Mrs. Bell, Sutter, the coat pattern paper, the copied measurements, and the marked stone from the laundry wall. Voss arrived polished and angry. Dutton arrived dusty and angrier. Evelyn spoke before either could turn the gathering into theater. The hotel's rear lot was cut down 2 feet and filled over the old wash line. The framing plan shifted the west wall and stair support from the foundation set. The old flood mark at Mrs. Bell's laundry shows water higher than the hotel's rear fill. If Black Mesa receives another hard rain, the back of that building will carry the first failure. Dutton laughed too loudly. The seamstress predicts rain now. Evelyn looked at him. No, I measure what men hope rain will ignore. Levi placed Dutton's figures beside the public plan. This is your hand. Dutton's face changed. Voss stepped forward. Private notes taken out of context, Mrs. Bell snorted. Everything dishonest begs for context. Sutter examined the paper, then the plan. Other men pressed closer. Voss tried to speak over them, but for once, the crowd wanted measurements more than promises. The final turn came from Madame Lott's landlord, who had been watching from the edge of the street. Voss bought Madame Lott's machines, he said. Evelyn turned. What? Through Dutton, paid cash. Said the shop would do better as a supply office once the hotel opened. There it was. The closed dress shop. The missing employer. The convenient disappearance of the one woman in town who had measured Voss closely enough to preserve Dutton's notes by accident. Voss had not set out to ruin Evelyn. He had simply swept away every smaller thing that stood in the path of his opening date. Madame Lott's shop, Levi's objections, the old flood memory, a seamstress's livelihood. All of it was acceptable loss if the Black Mesa Grand opened on time. The council ordered construction stopped until an outside surveyor could inspect the lot. Voss called it temporary. The surveyor called it reckless. The surveyor did not arrive with drama. He arrived with a level, a measuring rod, a notebook, and the worn-out patience of a man who had seen too many buildings argue with gravity. His name was Mr. Ivers. He listened to Voss for 5 minutes, to Dutton for 2, and to Evelyn without interrupting once. Then he asked to see the string line she had set in the arroyo. That changed the town's posture. Until then, some people had treated Evelyn's warning like clever talk that happened to embarrass the right men. But when Ivers followed her line, checked her measurements, and placed his own stakes within an inch of hers, clever became harder to dismiss. "Who marked this?" he asked. "I did," Evelyn said. "Using what?" "String, a dressmaker's tape, and a dislike of crooked load paths." Ivers looked at Levi. "You saw it too?" "Yes." "Good. 2 people with eyes." He made no compliment beyond that. It was one of the best compliments Evelyn had ever received. By afternoon, Ivers had the council, Voss, Dutton, Levi, Evelyn, and half the town standing behind the hotel where the arroyo curved past the fill. He poured a bucket of water at the edge of the rear lot. Everyone watched it disappear into the new fill, travel beneath the surface, and emerge lower down where the soil had already begun to slump. "Water is patient," Ivers said. "It will take the path you forgot before it takes the path you drew." Evelyn felt Levi glance at her. She kept her eyes on the ground, but the words settled inside her. That was what bad plans did. Bad contracts, bad towns. They drew lines over old truths and acted surprised when pressure found them again. Ivers wrote his conclusion in the council book before leaving. "Rear fill unsuitable without drainage and stone support. Existing frame must be altered before occupancy." For the first time, Evelyn's warning had an official hand behind it. Voss looked smaller holding the book than he had holding the banner. Within a week, the rear foundation was condemned, the stair support redesigned, and the building cut down from 3 stories to 2. Voss's grand opening vanished from the banner. Dutton left town before anyone could ask too many questions about excavation notes. Voss stayed, because men who owned buildings rarely vanished, but he spoke less loudly afterward. Levi was offered his job back. He refused unless Evelyn was paid for her measurements. Voss refused. Mrs. Bell organized half the women in Black Mesa to bring every unpaid mending bill, laundry dispute, and fitting grievance to the hotel office on the same morning. Voss paid Evelyn by noon. That should have been the end. But endings rarely arrive where public trouble stops. For Evelyn, the harder question came after victory, when she still had no dress shop, no employer, and no guarantee that being useful once would feed her twice. She considered leaving. Levi knew it before she said so. He found her outside Madame Lott's old shop at dusk, looking through the dusty window at the covered forms. "Stage leaves Monday," he said. "Does every man in this town track women's tickets?" "Only when Mrs. Bell announces them while wringing sheets." Evelyn smiled, despite herself. "I have enough for Tucson. There is work there." "I expect there is." "You will not tell me to stay?" "No." That answer disappointed her, which was unfair and therefore annoying. Levi stepped beside her. "I will tell you, the shop lease is open. The landlord prefers coin to dust. Madame Lott's back room is sound. Front window needs work. Roof leaks near the stovepipe." "That sounds like a warning." "It is a list." "And who would repair the window and roof?" "A carpenter looking for honest work." She looked at him. "You have hotel work again." "Some, less than before. Voss dislikes seeing my face." "Understandable. I like that you said that quickly." They stood in the fading light, the closed shop before them and the quieter hotel frame behind them. "I came here to work for another woman," Evelyn said. "I did not come to open a shop. Plans change. Spoken like a man who carries string. String helps." She touched the glass. "What if Black Mesa only liked me because I was useful against Voss? Then make them pay before deciding whether to like you." Evelyn laughed softly. "That is terrible romantic advice." Levi's ears reddened. "Was I giving romantic advice?" "Were you not?" He looked at the shop window, then at her reflection in it. "I was trying not to." The honesty in that undid her more than boldness would have. "Try less hard," she said. He turned. She did not make him guess. She had spent too much of her life fitting herself around other people's indirectness. "I am considering staying," she said, "for the shop, for the work, for Mrs. Bell, who is a tyrant with clean towels." "Good reasons." "And for the carpenter who believed a seamstress could measure a wall." Levi's face softened so slowly she had time to feel her own courage. "That reason concerns me," he said. "Why?" "Because I want it to be enough, and I know it shouldn't have to be." Evelyn looked at the locked door, the loose sign, the two covered forms. "It is not enough by itself." "I know." "But it may be part of the pattern." He smiled then, small and true. "I can work with a pattern." The next month, the sign over the old shop changed. Hart Fine Sewing and Alterations. Mrs. Bell insisted that fine was too modest and alterations too plain. Evelyn kept both because fine work and plain alterations paid different bills, and she intended to collect from both kinds of customer. Levi repaired the window and roof. Evelyn paid him in coin, not future promises. He accepted because he had learned her pride was not a wall to climb, but a gate to respect. In return, she mended his work coat and did not charge him for correcting the shoulder, though she wrote the amount in her ledger so he would not grow comfortable. Opening the shop did not make Black Mesa kind overnight. Kindness was not the first thing towns became after being wrong. They became curious, then cautious. Then, if work kept showing up on time, they became practical enough to look like they had been fair all along. Evelyn's first week brought 5 customers. The bakery woman came for a dress fitting and brought rolls as if butter could apologize. A rancher's wife came with a riding skirt she claimed needed a small adjustment, though it needed complete rebuilding. Mrs. Bell brought towels to hem and stayed to criticize the curtain placement. Mr. Sutter came with a coat too tight across the shoulders and looked startled when Evelyn asked whether he had injured one side years earlier. "Fell from a wagon," he said. "Your coat has been punishing you for it." By the second week, men began bringing work through their wives, then through Mrs. Bell, then eventually through the front door when a torn cuff became more urgent than pride. Evelyn wrote every order in a ledger: measurements, price, due date, deposit. She had learned from the hotel that vague agreements were simply traps that had not closed yet. One afternoon, Voss entered the shop. The bell above the door rang as if reluctant. Evelyn looked up from pinning a sleeve. "Mr. Voss." He removed his hat. "Miss Hart?" Neither smiled. He placed a formal coat on the counter. Cream wool, expensive, badly cut through the back. "This requires alteration," he said. "It does." "Can you do it?" "Yes." He waited for more. She gave him none. "Will you?" Evelyn touched the shoulder seam. "Full payment in advance." His mouth tightened. "Is that necessary?" "With some customers." For 1 second, Voss looked as if he might leave. Then he took out the money. When he returned for the coat, it fit him better than he deserved. He looked at himself in the mirror for a long time. "You do good work," he said finally. "I know." It was not forgiveness. It was business. Evelyn found she preferred it that way. The first hard rain after the repair came at night. Evelyn woke to it tapping on the shop window, then striking harder, then running in streams from the roof. By habit, she thought first of fabric. She rose, checked the shelves, moved 2 bolts away from the wall, and was tying her boots before she admitted she was not worried about cloth. She found Levi already outside, coat pulled high, looking toward the hotel. "You too?" he asked. Water is persuasive. They walked together through the rain to Main Street. Lamps glowed in the hotel windows. Behind the building, the new stone drains carried water toward the arroyo in 3 clear streams. The rear wall stood dry above the splash line. The service hall window showed lamplight steady inside. Voss stood under the back awning with a lantern. For a moment, none of them spoke. The arroyo ran brown and loud past the fill that would have carried the old mistake. Water struck the drains, divided, and moved on. Voss looked at Evelyn, then at Levi. "It would have gone," he said. Levi answered quietly. "Yes." Voss swallowed. Rain dripped from the awning between them. "I did not want to see it." Evelyn looked at the water. "Most bad fits begin that way." He gave a short, humorless breath, almost a laugh, and almost not. The next morning, Black Mesa saw the drains had held. People spoke of Ivers, of Levi, of the council, of Voss's reduced plan. But enough of them also looked toward heart-fine sewing and alterations to remind Evelyn that a measured warning can outlive the day people mock it. The Black Mesa Grand eventually opened as the Black Mesa Hotel. 2 stories, stone drains, proper rear support, and no banner claiming grandeur. Travelers liked it better that way. A hotel that did not boast seemed less likely to overcook breakfast. Voss recovered enough pride to attend the opening. He avoided Evelyn. Mrs. Bell made sure he could not avoid her. On the first heavy rain of the season, half the town came to watch the arroyo run. Water rushed behind Main Street, brown and fast, carrying brush, bottles, and old leaves. It struck the new stone drains behind the hotel and passed around them, noisy but harmless. The rear wall held. The stair support held. The service hall stayed dry. Levi stood under the laundry awning beside Evelyn. "Your coat held," she said. "Our coat." "Careful." "Your measured wall held." "Better." Rain drummed on the awning. Mrs. Bell brought coffee and pretended not to notice when Levi's hand found Evelyn's in the shadow between them. The romance did not become town spectacle. Evelyn would not allow it, and Levi had never wanted spectacle. It became an accumulation of practical things. He built shelves in her shop only after she approved the height. She kept spare pencils by her cutting table because he always misplaced his. He walked her home when work ran past dark, not because she could not manage the street, but because conversation shortened it. She learned that his silences had textures. He learned that her sharpness was often tiredness wearing boots. In spring, they married in the bakery yard because Mrs. Bell said churches were drafty and the bakery smelled better. The dress Evelyn wore was not silk. It was cream wool, cut beautifully, with a shoulder line so clean that 3 women asked about it before the cake was served. Levi's coat fit well enough that Evelyn whispered he was nearly presentable. He told her the word nearly would sustain him. Years later, people in Black Mesa told the story as if Evelyn Hart had saved the town from a hotel falling into a wash. She always corrected them. "I measured 1 wall," she would say. But everyone knew the wall was not the whole story. The story was a town so eager to look grand that it nearly built over what the land remembered. The story was a seamstress who understood that a bad line on paper becomes strain in the real world. The story was a quiet carpenter who chose being dismissed over building what he knew was wrong. And in the front window of Hart and Rowan's Sewing and Carpentry, where dress forms stood beside cabinet samples and pattern paper shared space with wood shavings, Evelyn kept the old notice from Madame Lott's door, closed until further arrangement. She framed it not because it was pretty, it was not. She framed it because every life has a moment that looks like a locked door until someone measures the wall beside it and finds another way in.